I do have one question here, Murray. Has the scientific, and I'm going right back to the beginning of your talk, has the scientific community verified Annie Besant's and C.W. Leadbeater's work? Has it like been recognised? Obviously, way ahead of its time. Is it recognised in some of those science circles? I look like I'm looking up, but Murray's over the table ahead of me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not completely by any means, but what is encouraging is that there's a growing number of scientists who are adventurous enough and open-minded enough to explore the phenomenon of consciousness without having to reduce it down to a simplistic materialistic explanation. And we have, for example, the people in ions that I mentioned a while ago. It was founded by Edgar Mitchell, and they're doing absolutely groundbreaking work there, investigating telepathy, remote viewing, psychokinesis, etc. I did mention that two particular physicists, there was Dr. Stephen Phillips, and I think the other was M.G. Hocking. They have an online presence, both of them extremely interesting, and they have, I think independently arrived at a way of integrating the clairvoyant investigations with the conventional view of the atoms, which is a big gap because it looked like a chasm, quite frankly. But they've done that by an understanding of the role of the zero point energy of the particles involved, and also of the effect of the observer, what the clairvoyant has to do to hold the particles still. That's a pair of them. So there's much to do, and I look forward to the day. I hope it's not very far off, because this was a prime motivation for Geoffrey, that he wanted to do this work to encourage others to follow on, ask him and take the work further, to do the training. He hoped ardently that younger people would come on and do the yogic trainings and be able to do accurate, reproducible remote viewing and things like that. I think there are such young people. Ask Maureen Patterson about the young people, our darling Maureen, up in the far north. And she'll talk to you about the new souls arriving on Earth. And if people are interested, have a read about the indigo children and the successive waves of lighted souls that are beginning to arrive on Earth. That's my answer for now.
Yeah. Thanks, Murray.
You have to read me the questions, I think, Renee.
Yeah, no, that's all right. There's not as many questions as there is lots of thank yous for your wonderful, inspiring talk, for the sharing of science, theosophy, music. Everyone's found it inspiring and appreciative. Yeah. Arnie just had a comment there. He said, thanks for the narrative, demystifying the occult science of theosophy. And he just mentions C.W. Leadbeater too describes the musical forms and light emanating from the Gayatri mantra chants that he heard at a temple in Adyar. He says the mantra is an aura cleanser. Geoffrey did talk about the Gayatri mantra, didn't he?
Yes, exactly. The occasion that I remember is one day when we had the librarian of Adyar there. Her name is Sita Nilakantan. I don't know if you remember Sita. She's passed away since. She was also a devoted yogi, a yogini, of course, and she would personally chant the Gayatri every day. And she had been paying an extended visit to Geoffrey and Sandra, and I happened to be there. I think we planned for her to perform the Gayatri, for him to look, and we did. And I had a tape recorder there on that day, and I still have that recording. I think Vicky's got it. I don't think anybody else does, unless, oh no, it's up on Theosophy World now. I think it's the archive of sound recordings there now, and it's not very long. And he made a few observations at the time. For example, that the Devas, the great Devas on the holding station on all the hills of Auckland round about, There might be some people who don't realise, but that Auckland is a great volcanic field of little volcanic hills that blew up for a while, then they stopped. And there are days over every one. And Geoffrey described how they all, well, not exactly, but metaphorically, swung their attention, swung their head, I was going to say, towards this group, towards this experiment, because it was apparently unheard of that there's a group of occultists or occultly interested people doing clairvoyant research. And actually, he had mentioned that once or twice before with the OC work and the music too. But they're all highly interested. But I don't know what it was on that day. He eventually retired with profuse apologies to Seta. He said, I'm sorry, dear, I'm unable to pursue this any further today. And my energy is out. Well, I can understand that, you know. As I've said before, he was probably 94 by then, and we have to excuse that. So I've not heard him describe the exact form and functions of the Gaia tree, but it's described at length by, I think it's in the book Nirvana by George Arundel. And there's an extensive description of it there, the way cone-shaped points of light of multiple colours stream out from the person chanting it with highly active, intensely lighted coloured tips that dart around the whole of the space in front of the chanter and touch and bless every living being out there. It's worth looking at that.
That's great, Murray. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. There's from Jerome here. Thank you very much. Again, the sound of your voice is very comforting, more of a healing effect for him. Very soothing. That's why the technical terms had an effect of gentleness.
Wow.
So that's interesting, isn't
Thank
it? Murray, can I just ask you, how long did you work with Geoffrey for? You know, over what sort of period of time?
No more than 2 years, I think it was. The earliest contacts were in 1978, and the last was either. I think it was towards the end of 1979, which personally for me is when my beloved first wife Joanna died. She died in November, and I sort of had this occult work going on while trying to nurse her as well, along with the district nurses and her mother. It's just a glimpse of what was going on for me in my life at that time, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ganesh Kumar from Auckland, he's just said his personal view is that science will take not hundreds, but many hundreds, thousands of years to come anywhere near the occult truths of CWL, Anibis, and HPB. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I can understand how you would feel that, Ganesh, because for decades it's looked as if the materialistic world of science is a brick wall, and that it was immovable. But I think the tides are rushing in, and the wall's not going to last much longer. I observe change occurring rapidly and ever more and more rapidly on the earth just now, and I think we're heading towards a crisis, which is either going to work out for better or for not so better, not so good.
Except all for growth.
All for growth. The lessons are inescapable. Either way, we can choose either the present way, choose to go with it, or resist and get it anyway.
That's exactly right.
It's more painfully. That's right.
There is a question here from Andrew White from Auckland. He says, "Hi Murray, thank you for that amazing presentation. I'm interested in what you said about Mr. Hodson's healing work. Do you think that the auric repair practices may have implications for psychiatry, such as in the treatment of schizophrenia?"
Yes, I don't know what they are, but my sense is that it's extremely relevant, because I think that there has, of course, obviously been an occult aspect to mental illness. It has inevitably involved activities and relationships and disturbances in the whole of of the mechanism of consciousness, which as Theosophists we understand to be the etheric body and the meridians, everything there with all the prana charging up and down the meridians, and the astral body and the chakras, which link it to the etheric and physical, and the mental body, and then the higher principles as well. It's intimately connected. And I would really like to mention that in this context here that I'm a couple called the Groffs, Dr. Stanislav Grof, that's Groff, and his wife Christine, developed an understanding, well, probably 20 years ago, which is encapsulated in a few short words, which is spiritual emergence through spiritual emergency. And there's a whole lot encapsulated in that. If you let those words unpack in your mind, it's an insight that depathologizes mental illness and sees it as a much more natural process, and that you don't have to treat it by violent and demeaning techniques like locking people up and drugging them up to the nines and wrapping them up and all this thing. Sure, there are violent cases, but it conveys an insight which changes the whole thing. That provides a context against which I think that aura repair and all sorts of spiritual healing techniques can and will be brought to bear. And hurry up, because we need it desperately. Thanks,
right.
Andrew. That was a great question.
It was. It gives great hope for the future.
Oh, totally, absolutely.
Doesn't it? Yeah. Look, there is wonderful thanks here from Tony, from Peter, Stephanie, Susanna from Christchurch, from Richard Sell from Auckland. There's here from Liz Barry, wonderful and inspiring, Murray. Arnie from India. Thank you, Murray. That's a fascinating story. I knew Sita, who was the librarian at Adyar. So that's from Arnie from India.
He spells it differently. Oh, it's all right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Jenny Kelso, thank you, Murray. Very interesting, mind-boggling, interesting. I will just mention here that a lot of the MP3s that Murray spoke of, they are on theosophy.world, that you can, listen to the various talks of Mr. Hodson's. Also, there's a few little things we've got happening here at headquarters. We've been upgrading our library, so it's of a nice standard. It's a national library.
It's amazing.
We've got a sort of a Geoffrey Hodson cabinet that we have started just to put some things that we have of Mr. Hodson's, like we've got some little proofs of a lot of the angelic or deva realm that he saw. That's all coloured and very, very beautiful. So we will have these up and going in the coming months. We've already got the cabinet. We do get a lot of people that knock on our door and say, is this where Mr. Hodson either lived? And I'm sure Murray gets that up at his house, but we do get that here at the New Zealand section as well. And thank you to everyone. I know it's getting late now. It's 9 o'clock, but Murray, heartfelt thanks from everyone here. The comments were just beautiful, that everyone appreciated what you shared. And it is lovely to hear that first-hand experience, which you don't always get. And Murray had quite a bit of it, and from a scientist viewpoint, and even listening to the things of Mr. Hodson and him in that state, that it's special to be able to do that. So I would like to thank you very much, Murray.